The world as you know it is over. You can see that there have been so many changes, and in fact, the pace continues to increase. Every day I look at the news, and I've been doing this since 2007, each and every day spending hours looking at this information, and I can tell you that the pace at which things change has absolutely been rapid. I mean, I cannot keep up, and I spend hours and hours a day to simplify that for you so that you don't have to. In today's video, we are going to look at what's going on with the US dollar. And let me tell you, it doesn't look pretty. Now, I'm going to show you the details you need to know and why this is extremely critical for you to be able to work around it. Let me show you. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. First things first, ASEAN nations meet, that's not a spelling error by the way, discuss dumping the US dollar and the euro for trade. Indonesia has urged its regional partners to also move away from using Visa and MasterCard to avoid the repercussions of Western sanctions on Russia. You see what's happening here? They do not want to deal with what the US is trying to do. They're sanctioning Russia. They're putting sanctions on everybody that they don't like, and they're squeezing everybody left, right, and center. And some of these countries are saying, look, I just want to do trade. I don't care what they're doing. And maybe that's right or wrong or what have you. But for a lot of these countries, they're saying, we don't want any part of what that. We just want to trade with. We just want to sell our stuff to them, or we want to buy our stuff from them. And we don't feel that some country should dictate the policy that we don't agree with. So here it is. Finance ministers and central bank governors from the Association of the Southeast Asian Nations this week discussed dropping the US dollar, euro, yen, and British pound for financial transactions and instead moving to settlements in local currencies. Do you see a pattern here? I mean, it's pretty obvious what's going on. This GDP total for these countries is 3.9 trillion. So while it's not significant, huge, it's not massive, but it's there, and it's, in total, it's something to consider. Now, this is not the only one, right? I told you about what they've been doing in other countries with China and Russia and so on, and we'll get to that in just a second. But you can see, be very careful. We must remember the sanctions imposed by the US on Russia, Visa, and MasterCard could be a problem. They literally pointed that out and said, yeah, we want to get around that too. So we can see what's going on here. Look, some other examples. Saudi Arabia makes its Eurasian shift. Saudi Arabia's recent reconciliations with Iran and Syria under Chinese-Russian guidance is perceived as a step forward, reducing Riyadh's dependence on the US while also advancing Beijing and Moscow's political and economic influence in West Asia. Not just West Asia, it's going beyond that, it's going all over. Then we have this one, BRICS nations working on fundamentally new currency, according to a Russian official. The US dollar's hegemony in international markets continues to deteriorate, partly due to the global south's refusal to enforce Western sanctions against Russia. Some say this is a blowback effect, that these countries are saying, I don't want to do that. And then you're punishing me? Absolutely not. So we're going to figure out a way that if we're doing most of our trade, like just for instance, one of those countries, maybe you would say, yeah, it's smaller. Let's just say Indonesia. But what if Indonesia's exports, like 95% of them, are going to China and Russia and all these other countries around it? Does it really care about that 5% that may be going to the US or Europe or what have you? Probably not so much. In fact, they just really want to deal with the partners that are giving them business and being nice to them now. You see? So the whole world doesn't necessarily have to agree with the United States. Now, can they drop everything to do with the US dollar entirely right now, just overnight like that? No. But they are joining these alliances that are clearly expanding. Look at the BRICS nations. The BRICS are expanding. Saudi Arabia saying, hey, I want in. They have said specifically, we want to create our own currency. This is just another moment in which they're more and more countries are saying, we want to do away with the US dollar, away with the US dollar. I've been doing all these videos all along. Currency swap agreements with different countries. All these different events have been lining up and been adding on what we've seen. Currently right now, 59% of the total reserves in the world are US dollars. That's by far the most. However, the share is starting to decrease and other currencies have started to pick up. That is really important because it shows us that it takes a long time to make changes, but we could have leaps forward in this instant here because these countries, they still want to do business with Russia. They want to do business with China. They want to do business with these countries, but if they're being sanctioned, well then, okay, drop that and let's move on to the next thing right away. That's what's happening here. This is a really good infographic. If you have time, links in the description under the sources. This is it, understanding de-dollarization. So you can go through the whole thing if you'd like. I'll just quickly give you the good points. De-dollarization is the process of substituting the US dollar as the currency used for trading commodities and other goods and services. People think that they have to use it. That's what they think. It's like an absolute must, but it's not. Okay? If you got Russia and China wants to buy oil from Russia, okay, they don't necessarily need to use the US dollar. There was a time in which they did use the US dollar because it was steady and stable. They could do transactions. They knew it wouldn't fluctuate, all these things, and they could hold them then as reserves. Then they could use that at a later time. But when they can't do business on the US systems, they're saying, okay, forget about it. We're not going to do this. We can't. They're being forced into it, right? So it's just showing you some significant events through the 20s, 44, the Bretton Woods Agreement, obviously. Then in 1971, Nixon pulls the world off the gold standard. And then we have inflation through the 70s into 1980, where they had to increase interest rates dramatically. 2007, 2008, of course, we saw the United States investors seek US dollars outpacing, expecting the currency to retain its value. And then here we have Crimea. Following the annexation of Crimea, Russia prioritized de-dollarization in response to the Western sanctions. They've been doing that ever since. They got rid of, I believe, all of their US treasuries by necessity. They had to do that. And they did so, and it happened. They got rid of their no longer one on that list, the major foreign holders of treasury securities. 2023, we see Brazil and Argentina discussing the creation of a common currency. The UAE and India explore the use of rupees for trade in non-oil commodities. Russia and Iran working together to launch a cryptocurrency backed by gold. These things, okay, there's just one after another, okay? If you want to check it out, here it is. You can pause it or just go to the link in the description. But you see, volume of Chinese-Russian trade in yuan. And you see that over time. Just recently, there was basically nothing. And now that has gone into the billions and billions, okay? So we look at this and just have to take it with a grain of salt, as it doesn't, move markets or, hit you off your feet in the next day or week, but it's happening, and it's happening faster than most people believe. And some people would say, China can't do that, China won't do that, China will never be able to do this and that. But let me tell you, I truly believe that China is willing to do anything. Chinese team behind extreme animal gene experiments says it may lead to super soldiers who survive nuclear fallout. So they're doing this thing. I mean, it's not even in the phase of like even mice or anything, but they are finding a way to have soldiers be exposed to nuclear radiation and keep on fighting. So when I say that they are willing to do anything, I truly believe that they are willing to do anything. Now, of course, the US has secret operations that we know are wild, but this is just what was shocking to me. Anyway, and by the way, it signals the fact that they're probably ready and willing to have a nuclear war, I guess. Anyway, surging oil prices could again frustrate inflation fight. So we have this at this time. Inflation's going higher, and it is creating a concern, of course, for the financial world, but also individuals. They can't pay their bills. The debt's going sky high. This is one indicator that you got to watch, okay? The US warehouse capital boomed during 2020, and now it's facing a slowdown. So this is like the area where LA Long Beach would, you'd bring all of your shipping containers, they would be emptied out and they would go to this warehouse area. But now it's facing a slowdown. That is a key indication of a slowdown in the economy, all directly related to what's going on with the interest rates. That's the key, okay? The economy can run and run and run on fumes, but as soon as interest rates go high, you have a big problem. Finland joins NATO in a major blow to Russia over the Ukraine war. I mention this because what we had seen over the last little while is not what we are looking at today. It is a very different world. We've got wars that are popping up and real concerns. Of course, China, Taiwan. We're looking at what's going on between the East and the West. And that really is the big thing. Very big thing. So this is the big concern. All along, we have to watch the central bank's reaction to everything. And I believe in 2023, we could have some real changes. Okay, so you're going to want to stay tuned. I'll bring you all the latest and greatest. Hit subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.